good. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, James Harden delivers, Rafael Nadal falls, and CJ McCollum makes fun of LeBron's logo shot. But we begin today with even more Deshaun Watson gossip. Today it's not Miami. Today it's Carolina. David Newton, who covers the Panthers for ESPN, said on NFL Live that the Panthers would do whatever it takes to land Watson, including give up 3 first-round picks and throw in Christian McCaffrey. Newton said that Panthers owner David Tepper really wants to win a Super Bowl and thinks you need a marquee quarterback to do it. Wilbon, if this package is actually offered, does Houston have to take it?
Tony, I don't think anything has to happen in regard to this latest report/rumor. I mean, Deshaun Watson, I love Deshaun Watson. I want him for my team. I'm gnashing my teeth out for the last 4 years because he wasn't taken in the draft by my team.
Right.
But it doesn't mean I have to then turn around and trade an entire team to get him. And it doesn't mean I have to offer everything. Go draft a quarterback. You got 3 picks. You're Carolina. You got a running back who, by the way, hadn't done anything in a year or so. Use him, keep him, and pair him with a quarterback you draft and develop. It just seems to me, Tony, that so many teams take the lazy way out. Either half of them aren't really trying to win fully, and then the other half are doing insane things, over-the-top things, overly dramatic things, and I don't know what's in their thinking. But no, I'm not trading an entire team to get Deshaun Watson. And I guess if I'm Houston, I could do it. If I don't think he's going to be happy there, I might be willing to do that if I'm the Houston Texans.
If I'm Houston, I don't do anything unless I get a quarterback in return. That's why Miami is an interesting option, because you could get Tua right away. I've got to have a quarterback. Now, maybe I could use the highest of those first-round picks, which I think would be number 8 this year, to draft a quarterback. Yeah. But I've got to have a quarterback. And by the way, if this is true, and I'm Christian McCaffrey, I'm steamed because I'm playing for a bad team. Now you want me to go to a worse team? You want me to go from 5-11 to 4-12? And by the way, if I'm Deshaun Watson, I have a no-trade clause. Maybe I don't want to go to Carolina. Maybe I don't want to go to a team that stinks now and is going to give up 3 first-round picks and its best player. Why would I want to do that if I'm Deshaun Watson? So, no, you don't have to do this on either level. You don't have to.
No, and it may not be recommended. I don't know about Christian McCaffrey going from 5-11 to 4-12. So what? Part of the reason that the Carolina Panthers were 5-11 last year is because Christian McCaffrey, his face was on a milk carton, okay? He wasn't out there. He disappeared. And I understand these are legit. I'm not questioning the injuries. I'm just saying they're not going to be any good if Christian McCaffrey is on the injured list. That's just the way that happens. So, Tony, we're going to have these stories every day. Most of them I just find like, what's next? Speaking of next,
let me go to this. Let me go to this one point, okay? Because I want to bring in David Tepper. David Tepper, who bought the team about an hour and a half ago, is much more like an NBA owner than an NFL owner. He comes in yapping about how smart he is, and he wants to win right away, and he doesn't have any patience, and he fires a coach, and he gets rid of a quarterback, and now he suddenly says, we got to get ourselves a great quarterback. He's been watching too many Tom Brady movies. This doesn't just happen like that. That's not how it works. Thank you for the audience.
We'll agree with you, Tony. James Harden, speaking of next, wasn't happy in Houston, but he's been sublime for Brooklyn. Harden put up 38 points, 7 boards, 11 assists last night as the Rockets came back from 21 down at the half, 24 down before that, to beat the Suns here in Phoenix, just crushed the Metropolis. And Harden did it without help from Kyrie and KD, who didn't play due to strains and tightness, respectively. Tony, James Harden is averaging 24 points and 12 assists since joining the Nets. Does he deserve MVP consideration despite the early disaster in Houston?
Let me just make one small correction. He's no longer with the Rockets. The Rockets didn't come back. The Nets came back last night. And to answer your question specifically,
Nets came back.
To answer your question specifically, he absolutely deserves it. What you saw last night is what James Harden can do when he has to do it by himself. All those points, all those assists, all those rebounds. He won that game by himself, down 24, down 21. He did that. That was vintage James Harden, right? And he did it apparently against a good team, a team that isn't 2 years away from being 2 years away, a team with your MVP candidate, Chris Paul, a gag job by Phoenix, to say the least. When you couple what Harden did with what he's been doing otherwise, where he has shown you what he can do with an ensemble, where he has subjugated his own game to make everybody else happy and is helping everybody win and is leading the league in assists, which LeBron did last year when there was some question about LeBron. He said, let me lead the league in assists. I would tell you right now, Mike, that James Harden is, for the body of work, the #1 MVP candidate right now.
Well, Tone, he went from not on my board of 5 to like second.
Really?
I mean, yeah. Tony, last night, you can say Phoenix gagged. I know you didn't watch any of the game.
No,
but what you did capture was completely accurate. James Harden was brilliant. And James Harden has just decided, okay, I know I can score. We've seen that. I've won some scoring championships. No. I want to win the whole thing. I want to win the championship, and here's how we do it. And when Kyrie, who didn't want any part of the ball and the ball handling responsibilities and facilitating teammates first, when he said, James Harden, you do it, James Harden was already doing it. The assist last night, Tone, he makes Joe Harris look like Rick Barry. I mean, he knows how to use these guys already. He is playing them like a violin. And so Harden has gone from not in my top 5 like, 48 hours ago. And sometimes you have to see it. You have to sit and watch and do it against a good team. They were 24 down. And when they were 17 down, I said to whoever I was talking to on the phone, the 17 down, Brooklyn's going to win this game. Because Harden, Tony, he looked totally calm. He walked them down. He stalked them. And Chris Paul had a great game. Booker was great early, a little passive for me, only took 16 shots. But Harden, my God, he is a tornado right now. And yes, right. He's not one. He's behind LeBron for me. But LeBron, Embiid, Harden's right there. He's right there.
I'll tell you why he's not behind LeBron. This is why he's not behind LeBron. And he's a revelation this year. He's not a selfish player. He's a revelation. He is an old dog learning new tricks. LeBron ain't learning any new tricks. James Harden learning new tricks. We move on. Let's go to the Australian Open and the major upsets today. Rafael Nadal was up 2-0 and was beaten in 5 by Stefano Tsitsipas. Hope I got that right. It's only the 3rd time in Nadal's career that he has lost like that. On the women's side, top seed Ashley Barty was up 6-1, 2-0, only to end up losing to Karolina Muchova after Muchova took a controversial medical break. And then you have tonight's Serena Williams-Naomi Osaka semifinal match, Wilbon, which is the biggest story here?
I'm going to put my Tony Kornheiser cap on, or one of my Tony Kornheiser hats. And I'm going to say, we're in America. I know you don't think Arizona's really in America because you don't, venture that far from home, but it is in America. And so it is tonight's match, which is at 10 o'clock, which would be prime time for some of us, though not you. 8 o'clock early bird special out here for me, Tony. So I am going to watch and be consumed by that match. I want to see those two women go at it. I think that Osaka, as I said to you yesterday, is entering that period of time where, if healthy, she's going to just beat everybody and run through the field over and over a few times. Tennis, it doesn't last that long, particularly women's tennis. Somebody comes up who's 14 now and catches you. But it is, if I was in Australia, the other match would be fine. I'm not in Australia. I'm in Tony Kornheiser's America tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern. Be there.
All right, so I would love to disagree with you, but I'm not going to disagree with you. The Serena-Osaka match is the biggest deal, and there's another reason why. It's because what Serena is trying to do to catch Margaret Court in her home country is historic. Rafael Nadal going out in the quarters in Australia is not historic. He hasn't won there since 2009. That's the only time he's ever won there. He's a non-factor in Australia. Ashley Barty going out is not historic. I have no idea what she's ever done in her career to get to be #1. She's only been in one, major final. So that's not it. But I am interested in this. I'm interested in that medical break. Usually somebody slips, they hurt a knee or they hurt an ankle. But Muchova said, I'm feeling faint, and they gave her some ice. And then the other one, Barty, falls apart, Mike. She loses 12 of the next 15 games. Boom, you're done. How is that possible? And by the way, what's in that ice? And can I have some?
What's in the ice?
Because
That's
it
what
made
I
her
wanna
into
know.
Superwoman.
What's in the ice? I want ice immediately shipped to me. Remember a couple of years ago where that tournament was defined by like 130-degree temperatures? Maybe it's more than a couple of years ago. But there's always weird stuff that goes on at the Australian Open. But tonight, I might just have to just force your hand here and ring your phone a few times. If I wasn't going to wake up Carol, I would wake your butt up to watch like a man. Watch this match.
Yeah, well, I'll have the dog answer the phone for you. Let's take a break.
Sure you will.
Coming up, LeBron's logo 3 draws a reaction from C.J. McCollum.
And should we be concerned about Giannis and the Bucks now that Milwaukee's lost 4 straight?
So this is a 10 o'clock Eastern start tonight?
10 Eastern,
tonight.
8 Mountain Time, 8 for me.
Oh, so you can watch the whole thing and then go to dinner if you want. You can do that.
Go dinner, NBA game after that, 2-3 things after that.
Pardon the Interruption is presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Pardon the Interruption, presented by Toyota.
I'm good with words. For instance, you can't spell Kornheiser without the word Knish. What's first?
C.J. McCollum was blank to poke fun at LeBron's logo 3 attempt.
He was brash. There was another word I wanted to use, but this is a family show, and I can't use it. Let me just point something out. You don't go out there and make fun of LeBron like that and show those crying and laughing emojis. You ought to remember that last year in the playoffs, you won the first game against LeBron, and that's the only game you won. And then you and Mr. Hulu were swept out of the playoffs. All right, so LeBron has a good memory. LeBron's not going to forget that you made fun of him. It's going to be like Tom Brady. When Tom Brady picked out that DB in Pittsburgh and made fun of him and threw touchdown passes right at him and then got in his face afterwards. LeBron's going to do that to McCollum.
Tony, it's defiant. For all the reasons that you just stated, it's defiant. And that's what I love about the Blazers, particularly their backcourt of McCollum and Dame. It's like, okay, you got us. We're coming back at you again, old man. This is what they're saying. This sets up conflict. It sets up drama, which you were always a fan of, in your chosen situations. This is going to be good if they get to play each other. And I think Portland may be the most worthy team, other than Utah, in the West, of getting to the conference finals and playing against LeBron and the Lakers. It sets up controversy. How can you be against it? How can you be annoyed?
Last year, 4-1, and McCollum was minus 64.
Defiant.
Minus 64. I don't know about Mr. Hulu. Next.
It's blank that the Milwaukee Bucks have lost 4 in a row.
It's inconsequential. It's February. Okay, Drew Holiday didn't play in these games. It's February, and did I mention it's February? Now, there's some statistics about Milwaukee that are scary. They're only better than one team, Detroit, in close games. That's a bad sign. But teams get hot at some point, like Utah. They get cold at some point, like Milwaukee. If this was happening in April, I would feel differently about it. And then people would say, oh, Giannis is going to leave. But he's not going to leave. So in the words of the other guy from Wisconsin, relax.
Tony, I'm not going to disagree with any of that. I'm going to approach this from a different angle and say it's parity. There's only 3 teams that are out of it any given night in the NBA. Sadly, one is where you live in Washington, Minnesota, and Detroit. Everybody else, Tony, is within a couple of games of a playoff spot. Even the Boston Celtics, who are in 4th place, are +1, 1 game over 500. The NBA has had this how many times in the history of the NBA? Never. Because usually there's 6 or 7 teams getting all the wins. There's a small middle class of 3 or 4 teams. Right now, Tony, you've got 26 teams, at least, that can say, hey, wait a minute, we're still playing for something. And that doesn't even happen after 30 games normally in the NFL. First time ever parity. I'm not saying I love it, but that's what it is, and Milwaukee's part of it.
No more words. No more. Let's take one last break, but still to come, Pittsburgh's GM says something that Ben Roethlisberger might wonder about.
And J.J. Watt tweets something cryptic About free agency.
I don't like Ben Roethlisberger's position right now.
You mean
I don't
is
know.
at this point?
Let's go places.
Happy time, people. Happy 34th birthday, Danny Farquhar. Don't feel bad if the name is unfamiliar. Farquhar was a nondescript pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, who now coaches in their minor leagues. But on September 21st, 2017, Danny Farquhar was pitching against the Astros. When he heard noises, it sounded like a bat banging on a can every time his catcher called for a changeup, and Farquhar smelled a rat. He did not go public with his feeling that the Astros were stealing signs and relaying this information in real time, but he loudly told some teammates and later said he was surprised that the media didn't ask him about it. When former Astros pitcher Mike Fiers conceded that the Astros were cheating and the scandal exploded, Farquhar had to feel some form of vindication. It appears Danny Farquhar was patient zero.
Tony, Farquhar is a nice little historic note. Nice little note. Bigger on the historic scale, Jim Brown turns 85 years old today. Michael Jeffrey Jordan turns 58 years old today. That's history, Holmes, is it not? Two GOATs.
That is actual history.
G. Yes, it is.
That's history. Those guys are the best players in their sports. Happy anniversary, David Robinson. On this day 27 years ago, Robinson recorded the most recent quadruple-double in the NBA. Robinson did it with 34 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and 10 blocks. Only 4 men have ever posted a quadruple-double. The others are Akeem Olajuwon, Nate Thurman, and Alvin Robertson, the only player to use steals as part of his quad. Wilt Chamberlain may well have had a bunch of these, but they did not keep track of blocks or steals in his day. You wonder who might do this today? James Harden and Russell Westbrook have had as many as 8 steals in a game. Rudy Gobert has had as many as 8 assists and 8 blocks. Nikola Jokic might have difficulty getting enough blocks, but he's had 7 steals. I think the players most likely are Giannis Antetokounmpo and Kevin Durant, who both have had 7 blocks in a game and 5 steals.
Tony, I agree with you on those as you try to project a little bit. Those guys are in their primes, obviously. Christian Wood, not near his prime yet, not on the radar yet. I think he's one of those guys who could do it. Let me just say this about David Robinson, given his athleticism and how diversely skilled and highly skilled he was. If he was playing now, David Robinson, who could get out and do things and pick and roll defensively and offensively, and he would extend his range, David Robinson right now would be a greater monster than he was when he helped the Spurs win 2 championships. Now, he would be that kind of player.
Happy trails to Cam Newton buying high fashion. Let me get out of the way and just quote Cam Newton from his recent video blog, and I quote, "One of my New Year's resolutions is to not buy high fashion. I want to be more of a thrift store shopper. I want to be more of a vintage shopper. I want to be more of a person that finds gems in stores that are less expensive and to still be able to give it its fine look. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars, maybe even millions of dollars, on clothes that I only wore once. So to be able to recycle the closet is something that's challenging. But at the same time, it's going to be fun to do so throughout this whole year," unquote. For comment, I turn to the only person I know who has spent millions of dollars on clothes. Michael Ray Wilbon, your thoughts? You don't strike me as a vintage shop guy.
No, Tony, I'll turn some things into the vintage shop and they can resell them to somebody else. I don't buy from the vintage shops, and I have not spent millions of anything. Thousands of dollars, yes. And Cam, not millions, but hundreds of thousands, yes. But this is cool. Can you imagine being in a vintage shop, a secondhand shop, and Cam Newton walks into your front door? Be pretty exciting, wouldn't it?
It would be, because you could buy his clothes for next to nothing compared to what he spent on them. Big finish, here we go. White Sox GM Rick Hahn says anything short of a World Series championship will be a disappointment. Really? Really?
Why do these GMs feel the need to say, look how brilliantly I assembled this roster, and now let's see what you can do with it? That just seems, I don't know, selfish as hell to me. Self-absorbed. Steelers GM Kevin Colbert said today, quote, "As we sit here today, Ben Roethlisberger is a member of the Steelers," close quote. What do you read into that?
As we sit here today,
as we sit
that
here
has
today.
a Jared Goff quality to it. Timberwolves guard D'Angelo Russell out 4 to 6 weeks. Is that significant?
The Timberwolves are going to be last with or without him, and we'll see how well they do in the ping pong ball matchups coming this spring. J.J. Watt tweeted, quote, "Free agency is wild." Keep reading. What do you read into that?
Oh, I just think that everybody's after him, and he's probably going, wow, look at this. Last one, Jazz and Clippers tonight. Who you got?
Tony, without Kawhi and PG-13, the Clippers aren't beating the Jazz. I don't know if they're playing. We'll find out soon.
Out of time. Try to do better next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.